What's up, van fam? It is Ben Price back at you again today with another video. Cal and I are loaded up in the van and we're actually going to go visit my friend Gan Nunley at Nunley Chevrolet in Bentonville, Arkansas. And the reason why we're doing that today is because we're going to go test drive a new vehicle, a new one to me at least, the Brightdrop EV from Chevy. Now, if you're not familiar, this is the EV van from Chevy and GM that should be competing with the Ford E-Transit, the Rivian delivery van, and the Mercedes E-Sprinter. This is a pretty new one to me. I've never seen one in person. I've never driven one, so this is going to be a brand new experience, and I'm going to take you guys along for the ride with me. So without further ado, let's go check it out. See you there. All right, so we are in here in the cockpit checking everything out. And the first thing that I noticed is that we don't have normal doors. Both the passenger and the driver door are sliding doors. They are pretty heavy doors, but they do slide really smoothly. With the crazy wind that's going on outside though, I did actually catch a couple of my knuckles on the locking mechanism right here as it was closing with some force. It did bash me up a little bit. I'm gonna survive. It's really nothing bad at all, but just something I was thinking that, you know, maybe families who are considering. I don't know if Chevy's gonna offer a different style door, but I'm pretty sure that families with little kids are not gonna like those doors. But that's okay, because this van is not meant for that. This van is meant to be a delivery vehicle, so that's really the use case that they have considered. Cal's checking everything out here too. He's doing his own QC from a dog perspective. How are you doing, bud? You like the van so far? What do you think? You want to go check out the back? We'll get there. As Cal is demonstrating, this area right here where the passenger would sit, it's actually much lower. And that is, again, because this is a delivery vehicle. So having that step be lower is easier, you know, for drivers to get in and out of here. I think from maybe a van standpoint or from like a camper standpoint, that's kind of nice because you just have more room. That was the second thing that I noticed, is that there is an absolutely insane amount of room up here. Video probably won't really do it justice, but Cal is about 75 pounds and he could fit in here with no problem. I could actually probably fit two of him in here curled up. And then we've got a ton of space. Look at that, nice incentive, $25,000 off. But yeah, so from a camper van point of view, this large cockpit just makes it very comfortable. I don't feel cramped at all. The view is absolutely amazing. Again, video's not gonna do it justice, but this windscreen is just absolutely massive. And like my hand, you know, I'm sitting here in the seat with my back up against the back. My hand is nowhere close near the windshield. It's actually like still not touching it. Okay, that is the windshield. My armpit is now on the wheelchair, or the steering wheel. That is, just for context, how big this area really is. We've got also some really nice storage up here, and this is something that, like on a Sprinter or Transit, we as builders would have to build this in after the fact, but Chevy's just gone ahead and done it for us. There's speakers up there. We've got our sun visors, nothing special there, but just a nice feature. And then full height ceiling, so we can stand up in the cockpit area, no problem. Controls, I'm not going to talk a ton about controls. You know, we've got audio, I'm sure, some cruise control, maybe some navigation, some information. Let's see, as far as shifters, okay, we've got the normal stock shifter, and then we do have some paddle shifters back here, it looks like, if we felt like changing gears manually, although I don't really know many people who are doing that. We'll see the screens when we go for a drive, but I'm assuming we've got vehicle information here and then infotainment there. Again, just a lot of normal auto controls, from mirrors to seats and lights and features, HVAC, all that kind of stuff. Looks like we've got some nice factory charging ports. That's going to be obviously important for campers. I don't know if we've got anything up here for charging ports like the Sprinters. Oh, yep, looks like we've got something right here. Ooh, look at that, that's a 110. So that means there's an onboard inverter. I wonder what wattage that is. I'll look it up and I'll put it up on screen. But yeah, again, just for context, you know, I'm 6'3", Cal's a 75-pound pit. Two of us are kind of walking around here in this space without stepping on each other or feeling like I'm cramped or anything like that. I will say that this jump seat is laughably small. At least for long trips. I don't think that I'd want to be there on like a multi-100-mile day. But who knows what kind of other options are there. You know, maybe as a builder, we would take that seat out and then put in, you know, a more kind of bespoke captain's chair, something like that. But right now we're just looking at, you know, as this is straight from the factory. Okay, so seating position, I'm very upright. This, you know, feels like I'm driving a truck versus like driving my Econoline. The seats kind of feel like a car. It's a little bit more like upright, but it doesn't feel so much like a truck. Same thing with the Sprinters, feels much more like a car. In like the recline and like how much room I've got for my feet, there's just oodles and oodles of room down here. There's no chance of me feeling cramped as someone who's 6'3". And that can be really nice, you know, for long drives. Okay, so now we're in the back. This is the fun part of the van. This is where we get to do our magic and build everything out. Now, of course, the first thing that I'm sure you noticed from the outside of the van is much more square. We don't have, you know, the typical curves on these walls. In either, you know, going top to bottom, they're not curved. And it's like, you know, back here in the pillar or in the corners at the D pillar, that's nice and square and straight too. So from a builder's perspective, that's gonna make our lives a lot easier because complex curves are what make building in vans the most challenge. So when we've got nice flat panels, presumably these panels are parallel to each other. That makes a lot more sense in something like this, which is more like a box van. And the cargo vans where you've got that superstructure made out of the steel and they're, you know, trying to make it look a little bit more like a car as far as like the styling versus just like a truck, which is just more utilitarian. This is definitely more utilitarian from its design, so they can get away with those flat square walls. There's also a ton of headroom. Again, I'm 6'3". Let's see, I think I've got about so I'm 6'3" and I've got about an 8-inch span between my thumb and my pinky. So 6'3" plus 8, I can do some math. That is 6'11", almost 7 feet of standing height. Now, if we were to put a insulated ceiling and an insulated floor, we'd lose some of that, but only a couple inches. So even with a really well insulated floor and a really well insulated ceiling, I would still be able to stand up fully straight and have room to, you know, get up on my toes. I can stretch. I've got room to move in here. This is quite nice. I'm not used to having this much room in a van. Okay, flipping the camera around just so you can see what it looks like to go from the cockpit into the cargo area. We've got, oh, that is a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be. The doors are heavy on the outside. These doors are very light. This looks like it's going to be aluminum. It feels like aluminum. I don't think this is steel, so that's nice. There's actually a lot of aluminum in here. And that's just good from a weight perspective. Aluminum doesn't rust, so they can leave it unfinished, and it's a lot lighter than steel. I'm actually noticing now that this is actually a 2-panel sliding door, which is super cool because otherwise we would have a solid wall from here to here and a teeny little door to get through. But because they made this 2 panels, we'll slide the first one and then that catches the second one. And now let's measure how much room we got here. So I got about 8 inches between my thumb and my pinky. So we've got 8 inches, 16, 24. There's just about 24 2 feet. 24 inches, 2 feet. I'll put that up on screen, what that is in metric. That's what we've got between here versus what would have been something more like probably 12 inches. Okay, so coming into the back here, remember I said that there is no sliding door on this side of the van, or like in this section of the van. This, while it does look like it's a door, it's actually the pocket for the passenger door. And then we've got the same thing over here. This is just a pocket for the passenger door on this side. And then we don't have so much structure on the wall like we do in a Sprinter van. This is some kind of composite. I'm gonna guess a fiberglass panel. And then we've got some aluminum channels running horizontally and vertically for giving that structure. So this is not structural. This is pretty much a plastic panel. So we would absolutely be insulating this and putting panels on this. And if we were ever planning on hanging anything in these sections of the walls, we would add probably some more structure, just like we've got. And it's nice that this is already aluminum. We're not worried about putting our aluminum on a factory steel that could cause electrolysis and corrosion. We're doing aluminum to aluminum. That's gonna play together much nicer over the long run, making it, a more durable, longer lasting build. So yeah, we would probably add a couple more aluminum structures in here for us to be able to hang things and just make it a more sturdy vehicle, be able to, attach our cabinets, whether they're uppers, lowers, benches, all that kind of stuff. The ceiling is definitely something interesting to talk about. We've got, I don't know if it's the same material, but a similar material up on the ceiling, and it's a little translucent. So we're actually getting light from the sky coming through and illuminating this back area. That's really nice. I don't know what the insulation property is. So again, we'd probably be putting insulation in our own ceiling up here. But if you're going for a super simple build and you don't want to do that, you don't need the insulation, this could actually be really cool. Vans can be caves. They can feel like a cave. So the more light you can get in, the better. And obviously this, makes the entire ceiling at least a light source. Not that we can see through it, but we've got a light source. That being said, there are plenty of things in here that we would have to work around. This track for the garage door would need to be covered up. I've seen some other people who build in these vans. They actually make a second roof or a second ceiling that comes in underneath these tracks. So that garage door, when it comes and slides up, it actually tucks back into a pocket up in the ceiling, just like the passenger door tucks into this pocket right here. So as much as I do have all of that extra room above my head in this area of the camper, if I was to move into the back, I can still stand underneath the track, standing up full height. Again, I'm not sure how far we would bring that down, but at 6'3", I might now in the middle of the van under that have to crouch a little bit. Not the worst thing in the world, but not necessarily, the most comfortable if you're a tall guy like me. So some more similarities with some differences at the wheel well boxes. Of course, it's still a vehicle at the end of the day. So, you've got your drive shaft going under here. These are all-wheel drive, by the way. So we've got motors up front running the front wheels and motors in the back. Again, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if it's tri-motor, dual motor, what's going on. I'll look that up and put it up on the screen. So I think the only other thing of note to talk about right now in my first impressions is the garage door. Again, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with a garage door, but I'm thinking for most people what they're expecting with a camper van conversion, they want, the barn doors that swing open on the back. The plus side of that is that the barn doors don't take up ceiling height, as this will when it opens up. Granted, you can open this with, if you're parked really close to someone behind you. Obviously, this doesn't open out, so there's no concern for that. Pluses and minuses both ways, pros and cons, however you want to look at it. Just an observation. I could see at some point someone trying to remove the garage door. So take the garage door out, take the tracks for the garage door out, and then framing this in solid and putting some kind of, more traditional residential door or like an RV door in the back to give you that, more traditional access. I'm curious to see what people do with that over time. Okay, so we're gonna go for a test drive now. I've never driven an EV van before. I'm very excited to do this. I've driven a couple Teslas. Those are, you know, a very fun experience. So I'm gonna kind of just have to compare this a little bit to a Tesla, even though those aren't gonna be apples and oranges. That is the context that I have. From an EV standard, you know, I think that a lot of people will be able to relate. So I've got the keys in my pocket. It's all Bluetooth, push to start. So I'm just gonna tap that. The screen's kind of shutter for a second, but then I've got gauges up here on my dash. This is my digital readout for the vehicle info. I'm gonna take the camera here for a second. So nothing to be surprised there. And then similarly, we've got our infotainment here. I'm not gonna go through this because that doesn't really care or matter too much to me as a builder. I'm much more interested in how the van is going to drive. So I've got my friend Kat here, who's sitting in the short driver's seat. So if I look really tall, it's because I am, but also she's sitting much lower than me. So hopefully it doesn't look too weird. It's an electric vehicle, so there's no engine noise. I pushed the button, the information came up on the screens. I think we're ready to go. Let's see if I've got a parking brake. I don't have anything around here. Where is my indicator? Oh, there we go. Okay, so my driving indicator's right there. Oh, I also have it right here on the stalk. That's kind of nice. So typical, we're gonna push up to go in reverse. Right, we're gonna push up to go in reverse. So I'm missing something. Oh, I'll bet you, is it that? Is it the park? There we go. So it said park over here. I don't know if you heard that, but the e-brake just came off. Let's see. No. Whoa. I just pulled it down and the car started singing to me. Oh, my seat just vibrated. Why did my seat vibrate? What is happening? Okay, so we're in drive. That seems to kind of wake the car up. Let's see if can I go in reverse now? Why can't I go in reverse? Do I have to come? Oh, I've got to come towards me and then up for reverse. Oh, that's kind of cool. So you don't accidentally shift. I actually like that now. Okay, so I went into reverse. We've got our backup camera. It looks like we've got a 360 bird's eye view, which I really love. Okay, so we're gonna give the camera back to Kat, and I'm in reverse. I can hear a backup beeper. That's kind of funny. Electric car sounds are funny to me. Okay, so we're in reverse. I'm just gonna step off the brake. Okay, light little tap, smooth.
Still got our meditation music going.
Yeah, we've got our meditation music. I'm not gonna hit anything. Okay, so it does feel really light right now. Because it's a cargo van, right? They're planning on there being a bunch of stuff loaded into the back. So they're gonna tune the driving experience, expecting that you've got weight. We don't have any weight. Okay, so close the door before you start driving. Not even listening to my own rules. Anyway, it feels really light right now, so the brakes and the acceleration are probably gonna feel really jumpy after you properly close the sliding door, which I'm gonna pull over here and then stop rolling, and I'll close the door. Okay, so we're on the road. Well, we're in the parking lot. We're about to go on the road. First impressions, it's a car, right? I step on the accelerator, it rolls. It's very quiet. As soon as we closed the cargo door here, it got much quieter. It seems like the sound treatment in the cockpit is actually really nice. I'm speaking a lot quieter than I thought I was gonna be. It's just very echoey back there because there's no sound insulation or anything of the sort. It does feel really light right now, so the acceleration feels a little jumpy, the brakes feel a little touchy, but that's because they tune the car's performance, or the van's performance, based on it having a payload in the back. We don't have a payload right now, so everything is going to feel really light and touchy. Obviously, after we started building it out though, or if you're a delivery driver, you put your cargo in, that'll give it some ballast and it'll kind of settle in, so to speak. Okay, so we're just gonna go out here on some local surface roads, just check out the van, see how it drives. I really appreciate that when I hit the blinker, I get a side view mirror of my blind spot. So if anyone tries to sneak up around me, I'll see that here, which is nice to just have it right in front of me. I don't know if I like it actually. It has an auto hold, so I press the brake and I'm off the brake. The vehicle is actually still holding the brake for me, and then when I go to hit the accelerator, it'll release the brake and let me roll. I'm used to being able to take my foot off the brake and have it just roll forward a little bit. Because it's an EV, I'll bet you that's a software feature. I'll bet you can turn that on and off. Now, Nunley Chevrolet has been nice enough to let us borrow this vehicle, so I'm going to be very careful with it on the road. I'm talking with you guys as well, so I want to make sure that I'm going to take my time. We're not going to do anything stupid here with the van. All right, pulling out. I didn't rip it out of that turn, but I didn't go super gentle on it either, and the van stayed nice and level. It didn't try to lean to the outside, which for some of the bigger vans, like the Sprinter, that one definitely has some sway in the suspension. This one feels nice and grounded. I do have a little bit of rattling from the doors back here. Again, it's a cargo van. It's not meant for that super smooth, kind of like luxurious ride, so I'm not expecting it to drive like that. I am expecting it to drive like a cargo van. If it's really nice and comfortable, that's a bonus, but definitely not necessary. Okay, so it's pretty smooth. We're doing 35 here, matching the speed limit. I'm on a straightaway. We're right here at the beginning of our drive. I will say it is crazy windy outside today, and I can see it, I can hear it, but I'm not feeling it, and that's actually a really good thing. In vans, you know, with this big flat paneled brick going down the road, with really heavy winds, it's really easy for the vehicle to get caught and get pushed all over the road. And I thought that that's what I'd be feeling right now, but I'm not. I'm guessing that a lot of that has to do with the fact that the center of gravity on an EV is going to be much lower than on an ICE engine, because that battery pack is just all the way at the bottom of the chassis, and it is low and it is flat. So that's going to help keep the vehicle from rocking side to side. I, so far, really like that. It does feel like we've got like meditation music.
I was like, it's still singing to us.
I'm like waiting for it to like kind of change tone and like go into some other kind of like instrument. It's just like, maybe that's the soundtrack of the EV van life experience. Is it's just that good.
Very namaste.
Namaste right here in my van. Okay, let's test the pickup a little bit. Okay. Again, we're just going through an intersection. Speed limit's 35, so I'm not ripping or anything like that. What I wanted to test was the acceleration of the vehicle. EVs are known for their instant torque, just because of how electric motors work. So even, you know, Tesla Cybertruck, the Rivians, they are known for their really quick pickup speed, kind of like a drag car. I didn't get that experience on this van. I put my foot flat down to the ground going through that light, and we definitely picked up. It doesn't feel like a slow, sluggish cargo vehicle. It has the pickup that I want it to, but it doesn't have more than I want it to. And for me, as a builder, thinking about my user's experience, there's some of those rattles from the cargo van. As a builder, thinking about my user's experience, if this drove too much like a sports car, that would make it a little harder for people to drive. Most people aren't going to want to go racing from stoplight to stoplight. They're going to want to have an easy, smooth ride. So I think the acceleration curve that they've programmed into this is really appropriate for the vehicle and the application and the size. Okay, so this might sound like a little bit of a funny thing to nitpick about, but there's one thing about Sprinters, the new Mercedes Sprinters, that drive me absolutely nuts. And I'll explain it here, but they've solved the problem that I have on the Brightdrop. You see this pillar right here, right? If the window's going to go down, it's going to be this part. It's not going to be this little triangle right here. Same thing on the Sprinter doors. Their windows go down, and then they've got this little triangle piece. On the Sprinters, the divider, this solid piece right here, for me, is right in the middle of the side view mirror. So for me to use the side view mirror, I have to be like bobbing and weaving and moving my head around that. And even then, I can use the mirror, but it's not a good view. And to me, the point of the side view mirrors is for the driver to be able to see as much of outside of the vehicle as possible without having to move. So if as a driver, I'm supposed to be watching the road, if I have to be bobbing and weaving my head around this, support piece right here to see around the vehicle, that to me takes away from the safety of the vehicle. So all I'm saying is on the Brightdrop, this triangle piece is much bigger. It doesn't look like these windows go down, so maybe that has something to do with it. But the point is that this divider piece for me is not in the middle of the side view mirror. I've got a clear line of sight of both of these mirrors, my regular one and the kind of fisheye that gives me, more perspective view. It's something that I never thought that I'd have to complain about from a OEM vehicle manufacturer, but to me, that was a major faux pas on Mercedes' part, to be selling an $80,000 vehicle where I've got something structural, solid in the way of my side view mirrors that I have no chance of ever fixing. That's a major flaw. So, poo-poo on Mercedes, good job Chevy. We're coming up to a roundabout here, and I'm gonna go around the whole thing, do a full circle, and I'm not gonna be light on the throttle or turning, so we're gonna see how this feels going around. I've got some stuff sliding around up in the front, but these drivers are gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm gonna do a couple circles just so you can see what it feels like. Again, this is a heavy vehicle, but the center of gravity is low, so I'm going 15 miles an hour around this. All the other drivers are looking at me like I'm crazy, but this is for science. This is for science. Yeah, these guys get it. Giving me thumbs up. Okay, so now we've gone around, I think 5-6 times. Point is, the van stayed nice and flat. It wasn't rocking, it wasn't rolling, it wasn't trying to throw me into the passenger seat, it wasn't trying to throw Kat out the door. Cal was able to stand up nice without getting thrown all over the van. So again, I didn't think that I was going to be impressed by the suspension on this, but so far I am. I am curious to see how it reacts once we put a load on it, once we put ballast in the back. With our builds being aluminum, lightweight, I'm sure we're going to give it a little bit of ballast, and at the same time we're not going to risk going overweight, which is going to be really good also for the range. A big difference between EVs and ICE vehicles is that ICE, and when I say ICE I mean internal combustion engine, ICE vehicles become more efficient as you start driving on the highway. EVs become less efficient as you start driving on the highway. I'm not going to get into the science behind that, but all that matters is with EVs, extra weight means decreased performance. So when we're talking about a camper van application, it's really important to keep the build as light as possible so that we're not eating into the range and we're not putting extra strain on the vehicle that's not needed. Specifically around range though, because the biggest concern that people have around EVs is range anxiety. And we'll talk about that a little bit on the range on this vehicle a little bit later. But if range anxiety is a big deal for you, then a lightweight build is going to be really important, because yes, I mean, extra weight on a ICE engine is going to decrease your fuel economy, but you won't feel it quite as much. It's less drastic, as where in an EV, every extra pound of weight that you add to the base build, you will see that and feel that in your range, in your efficiency, every day that you drive the vehicle. Okay, so I'm not going on a crazy test drive. We're not doing any range tests like that today. I'm not trying to take this thing off road. This isn't my vehicle. This is still a vehicle for sale at a dealership, so I want to be very gentle and put minimal miles on it. We just did a straight shot down the road from the dealership, did a couple loops around the turnaround there. I'm just gonna head back. I'm really impressed with how the vehicle feels so far, and I don't know if this is going to be my favorite platform moving forward from today, but I'm definitely looking forward to being able to build a camper in here and see what that does to the vehicle as far as how it rides differently once we've built it out, but then also see how it functions as a camper. Right? Is that ceiling drop going to be a big problem? Are we going to really appreciate those square walls? Do we like the garage door? Do we not like the garage door? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. Okay, so Cal and I are back in one of our vans. This is Base Camp. We just finished this van not too long ago. We'll be doing a tour video of this one soon. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. But we're not here for that right now. We're here to wrap up the video on the Brightdrop. So a couple thoughts and things I wanted to talk about before we wrapped up. Okay, so now disclosure, I don't have an EV. I've never owned an EV. But I am a little qualified to talk about this just because for a couple of years, I worked with Ben Sullins as his producer, videographer, editor, bunch of things, and did a bunch of EV range tests. So while not necessarily an expert, I do have some professional experience and exposure to all of this. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about here. Now, before we get into the specs on the Brightdrop, I wanted to shout out Gan Nunley over at Nunley Chevrolet again for giving us the van for the afternoon to go test drive. I've had a crazy busy schedule lately, traveling back and forth from San Diego to Arkansas, and it was just super nice of Gan on a very short notice to work with my tight schedule. To give us that van for the afternoon. Okay, so getting into some specs here, really just the ones that matter to us as builders. The first one that I want to talk about is payload capacity. And this is the amount of extra stuff that you can put into the van, aside from, all of your fluids like oil, gasoline, diesel. Now, of course, this is an EV, so we're not putting any fuel into it. Really what we're talking about here in the context of camper vans is all of this stuff in the camper that we're going to put in there, from water tanks, batteries, furniture, kitchen cabinets, all that kind of stuff. So right off the bat, the most interesting thing that I'm seeing here is that the 400 actually has, this is coincidentally enough, 400 pounds more payload capacity than the 600. I'm sure those numbers are a coincidence, but we've got a 3,500 80-pound payload capacity on the 400 and 3,180 pounds on the 600. And I'm guessing that that's because even though the 600 is bigger and has the lower payload capacity, that's because the two vehicles are sharing the same components, and all of those components are rated for a certain amount of weight. And the 600 obviously weighs more than the 400, being a bigger vehicle. I'm guessing it weighs probably about 400 pounds more than the 400. So that extra payload capacity is really just taken up by the extra size of the vehicle. Little bit of a shame there, but physics are physics. There's not much we can do about that unless they start changing the motors and batteries and suspension and stuff like that. There's not much that they can do about that. And of course that would drastically change price and tooling costs and all this kind of stuff. That would spiral. So for right now, I understand it. But that makes what we do at Vamanos Vans with our lightweight aluminum furniture and cabinetry, that makes it that much more important, because in a bigger vehicle, of course, you're going to want to put more stuff in. More stuff in means more weight. Okay, bye. Where are you going? Okay, see ya. Like we were talking about in the van, range and weight mean more in EVs than they do in ICE vehicles. So as we have a bigger vehicle, we want to put more things in. it's that much more important that we keep those things lighter. At some point, it would be great if I get to do a range test with, an empty Brightdrop versus one that we've built out. I have no idea when or if that will happen, but if you want that to happen, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, leave us a comment, make it happen. Okay, moving on. Speaking of range tests, let's talk about range. We're seeing, again, similar specs between the two vehicles. The max range, that's the one that we care about the most, right? The max range with the biggest battery is 303 miles, which is considerably more than any of the other EV vehicles out there. And there's a good reason for that. And that is, except for us van lifers who like to road trip, most vans live their life as delivery vans, and most delivery vans never go more than 70 miles in a single day. And I think from back when I was working with Ben Sullins, I believe that it was something like 90% of the market, if not more, of vans were commercial vehicles that were, doing an average of less than 70 miles a day. So when we're talking about EVs, which of course, don't have great adoption yet, we're getting there, but we don't have a ton yet. It doesn't make sense for the manufacturers to build these vans with hundreds and hundreds of miles of range for, a single digit percent of their entire customer base. Their prices would have to be astronomical. And then, the other, the users, the companies that normally buy these things, they just wouldn't spend the money. They wouldn't buy them. So it just doesn't make sense logistically for them to do that, or economically, I guess. That being said, as a van builder, I appreciate having up to 300 miles of range. I'd be curious to see what that shakes out in the real world. Of course, there's a lot of things that go into it, like temperature and wind, driving style, payload, all those kinds of things. So I don't really know if it's, even worth it for me to speculate what the range would be with, one of our full build outs right now. I would like to think that we would match or exceed, the expected range with full payload capacity, just because we know that, our cabinetry and our furniture and everything is that much lighter than the rest of our industry. Only time will tell. Again, if you want to see it happen, you can with your vote. Go ahead, hit the thumbs up, leave us a comment. And talking about the max charging rate, again, what that would actually shake out to be in real world, I wouldn't even think it would be worth venturing a guess, because I know that, battery charging rates are very variable, and it depends on what kind of charger you go to. What I do know is that in real world circumstances, we're not talking about taking a completely empty battery all the way up to completely full. Most cases, we're talking about something between 50% charge to like 30% charge, back up to like 70 or 80%. Granted, yes, on a day that you're road tripping, you're putting a lot of miles on the van, but the average day of van life, again, you're really not driving that much. Most of the time with van life, you're actually parked. And then me personally, when I'm road tripping, I'm not the kind that likes to sit behind the driver's wheel for hours and hours on end, just trying to go as far as I can, as fast as I can. If I'm on a road trip with my van, I'm trying to enjoy my time. For better or worse, I'm a little ADHD. I don't, like to sit for too long. So, and I've got a dog, so, I like to take him out. We stop, every hour and a half, every 2 hours or so for at least 15, 20 minutes, stretch, walk around. I'll let him go to the bathroom. I might have a snack or, whatever, just kind of take in the sights, maybe take some photos. I have no problem planning those stops around charging. I think in a day where we're, so go, go, go and inundated with technology and productivity and all that kind of stuff, I don't know, having the chance to, not even the chance, being forced to stop and just kind of hang out for a little bit, it might not be the worst thing in the world for us right now. Okay, that being said, let's go compare the range to the other E-vans that are available right now. Okay, just so for easy visuals, I was watching this video about this van earlier today by Kirk Kreifels. Kirk, thanks for doing the research and building the spreadsheet for me. Now I don't have to do it. So if we are looking at range comparison, we're right here in row 3. We can see the Brightdrop has the average of 272, while the Ford E-Transit is at 159 and the Rivian is at 160. I'm going to go ahead and bet my bottom dollar that someone in marketing over at Rivian made that happen just so that they can say they had better range than the Ford E-Transit. I'm not sure what the Mercedes is. Okay, a quick Google search is telling me that the e-Sprinter is up to 270 miles with their 113 kilowatt hour battery and approximately 230 average based on EPA estimates. Again, what you get in the real life, it ranges quite a bit. But let's just say it's about the same on the e-Sprinter. Okay, so we're kind of split. We've got 2 vans at right around 160 and 2 vans right around 270. So we're getting 110 miles more range in the Brightdrop and the e-Sprinter. Okay, Cal's back to finish talking about range. Do you have anything that you want to say about range anxiety? Okay. Thank you for your input. You know, for some people, those extra 110 miles could be the deal breaker or a deal maker. You know, if we're talking about an average of 60 miles an hour, that's just under 2 hours of driving, which for a road trip, that's quite a long time to be behind the wheel. So just speculating today from my experience doing range tests with Teslas, and then my understanding of camper van building and physics, I think that the 270 mile range on the Brightdrop is actually going to be kind of a sweet spot. Having, more range definitely wouldn't hurt. We're talking about more batteries, so there's more cost associated with that. But I don't know. We'll see. It's going to take some time to get a number of these out on the road in a camper format. And people driving them around and seeing how that actually shakes out. But honestly though, I don't think that I would mind that too much. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Okay, so let's talk about price on these things. They're not cheap, that's for sure, but no vans are, so no surprise. Based on our data here from Kirk, we're looking at about $51,000 for the Ford Transit, about $75,000 for the Brightdrop, and then $80,000 to $84,000 for the Rivian. And a quick Google search is saying that the e-Sprinter is around $70,000. So the Brightdrop is coming in at actually the second most expensive. But looking at payload and range and cargo space, it actually is kind of justified. Looking at the specs for the Rivian are actually kind of funny with 160 miles of range, 2,600 pounds of payload capacity. Nothing wrong with the cargo, but those two numbers are definitely, on the lower end of the spectrum. The payload capacity is the lowest. So for the lowest payload capacity and the highest price, I don't know if we'll be building in any Rivian vans anytime soon, but only time will tell. Now, these prices do come with some interesting caveats because right now from GM directly, they are offering that $25,500 rebate. You saw that tag earlier in the video. That wasn't a trick. That wasn't clickbait. That's real. And you can see here in this article by Electrek, there is actually some even more deeper discounts that you can get if you are a Costco member. It looks like depending on where you are, there's different rebates with different states or areas or whatever, or based on your membership or whatnot. But it looks like some Costco members have been able to pull up to a $31,500 discount off of their Brightdrop. Then if you add tax incentives on top of that, which of course vary based on your location, I think I've heard of up to $7,500 on those. Don't quote me on that. So we're talking about, just under $40,000. I want to say like $38,000 worth of rebates and tax incentives and all that kind of stuff. So Again, quick math. If we were to take $38,000 off of $75,000, we'd end up with $37,000. So for $37,000, after all of rebates, tax incentives, and whatnot, to have an EV with a range of 270 miles and a payload capacity of 3,700 pounds, that's pretty impressive. That being said, the title of this video is "No one is buying this EV as it's piling up on the border." So he does talk about some sales numbers in the video. Let's look at those too. Okay, so despite the prices that we were looking at, the price per value, I suppose, Rivian came in at the #1 sold last year in 2024 with a little over 13,000 vehicles being sold. The Ford E-Transit came in second with 12,600, and then the numbers drop off pretty steep after that. The Chevy Brightdrop came in with just over 1,500, not 1,000, 1,500 sales. And then the one that shocked me the most is only 828 e-Sprinters were sold last year. Now, of course, we know that, the Sprinter is the most popular vehicle in van life, but the e-van has not made it over to van life yet. So clearly the e-Sprinters, or should I say Sprinters in general, are not quite as popular with the commercial fleet owners. My bet would be that Ford is the favorite there, and I happen to know that because they have been for the long time. But these numbers kind of back that up. And then looking at Rivian's numbers, I'm going to guess that Amazon has a lot to do with that number. If we look at, regular old lay people or small to medium sized businesses, which are, most of us, that number would be that number from Rivian would be significantly lower. Not important to this video, just something curious. Just to look at the trends and, see, what e-vans are being sold, how much and whatnot. So I don't think that the e-Sprinter is going to take over van life anytime soon. The e-Transit could, but that range at 160 or 159, that's pretty low. Obviously, people are going to have issues with that. I say all of this to say this rebate right now is promised through June, I believe. Who knows how long these discounts are going to stick around. But if you are in the position to take advantage of them, I don't know. It seems like a pretty good idea to me right now. And then as soon as you do, you're going to want to email me at hello@vamanosvans.com so that we can get started planning your lightweight dream van and get you on the road without any range anxiety. Thank you guys for hanging out to the end of the video. That wraps it up for today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Click that thumbs up, leave us a comment. Those things don't take very long. They're free for you, but they make a huge difference for the channel and my business, so we really appreciate it when you do. If you want to check out more of my videos, go ahead and subscribe to the channel or check out the video over here or over here. I don't know where it's going to be, but check out that video. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.